my beautiful friends. This is the start of a video series about something that made my life, frankly, intolerable for a period of time. I'm showing up here because I want to be another voice for you that this is not the only way, that there are other ways that you can live and experience your life. It's common, insidious, misunderstood, and therefore it can be really difficult to recognize or care about in yourself unless someone lovingly gives you the space to consider it. To stop, even just for 5 minutes, the busyness of your life and moving through the motions, to look at your beliefs and your behaviors and dream or consider the possibility of something different for your life. A lot of us are unaware of our current programming, perfectionism, or perfectionism programming as I like to call it. I've talked about what programming is in another video, so I'll pop a link in the top of the screen. But I like to refer to perfectionism as perfectionism programming because I define perfectionism as a learned and reinforced collection of thought errors that our brain preferences because it's become so efficient at these neural pathways. This efficiency for our brain and the fact that we spend most of our time not consciously thinking means that this becomes the lens in which we see the world. It's how we interpret most circumstances that we come across in the world, and therefore it drives how we make most of our decisions and how we act. Now, you, like me, probably don't immediately identify as a perfectionist or with this perfectionism concept because we can see we are far from perfect. Perfectionism, though, is a misnomer. Perfectionists don't walk around thinking, I need to be perfect, I want to do things perfectly. They definitely don't walk around thinking, I am perfect. But actually, perfectionism programming is conditioned, prompted, and reinforced in the aim of avoiding being imperfect. It's brought up when we're afraid of not being good enough. And your brain goes to work trying to analyze that risk and solve that problem. Perfectionism is an important issue. Perfectionism can be anything from a nuisance, hindrance, or disadvantage on the way to achieving your goals, your amazing overachieving goals, and all the way to a significant burden on your life as something that deteriorates your health, ruins your relationships, undermines your confidence, resilience, and self-worth, and at its extremes can cause mental health issues like depression and anxiety. I don't need you to do or change anything today. I don't need you to label yourself or de-label yourself. I only want you to open your mind. I know for me, I couldn't see that there was any other alternative way to think. We don't or can't want for anything different unless we can comprehend that something different is possible. I know for me, I couldn't hear this until I was ready. I probably heard it multiple times along my path from many wise, qualified, and loving, well-intended people. This video is for me to be another opportunity for you to plant that seed of possibility, to offer a different perspective, for you to make your own judgment and decision. Because we do know, thank you Albert Einstein, that you can't solve the problem with the same thinking that created it. It's very hard to change your mind by yourself. So today, no pressure, I'm just inviting you to get curious. Give me 5 minutes of curiosity here and we might just change your life today and with this series. Here's some broad stroke basics on perfectionism. The perfectionism syndrome most commonly looks like all boxes ticked on the outside. Externally, to anybody else, it looks like everything's going perfectly. We could not possibly want for anything more or different. By societal standards, everything's going great. But it's this mismatch with the internal experience, where if I ask you what your top 3 emotions are for the day by percentage, we find the majority of the day is not spent in positive, useful, enjoyable emotions. But actually our internal experience is very dark and very self-defeating. I know for me, it was really difficult to comprehend that anything was going wrong or that I would want to change anything because externally my life looked really good. And that's the case too for my wildly successful clients and colleagues in the same position with this perfectionism mindset. The perfectionism programming in terms of symptoms or behaviors looks like a hypervigilance in looking, searching out threats or mistakes, and a hypercritical self-judgment for when we make what's deemed a mistake. Now, this hypervigilance and hypercriticism is not the cause. It's a natural response to the thought errors of perfectionism programming, the fundamental injury trigger of perfectionism programming. There's 2 parts here. 1, our self-worth is conflated with our performance, our achievements, our outcomes, our career, or what we do. And secondly, our definition of good enough is boundless or not defined at all. And as analytical, conscientious people, good enough therefore gets measured as a lack of mistakes, errors, faults, flaws. A lack of flaws, flawlessness. And flawlessness is perfection. So good enough inadvertently becomes perfection. In a later video in the series, we'll go into the pathology of perfectionism, all of these thought errors, these cognitive distortions that make up and hold up our perfectionism. And by defining it in that way, with these cognitive distortions, these thought errors, you'll then see how we end up with something tangible, actionable, measurable, doable in terms of management, in terms of making a lasting transformation from this perfectionism programming. The undoing, the unlearning, removing the suffering and disadvantage of your perfectionism programming. I just want to close this video with a few myths about perfectionism. These myths help our perfectionism go unattended to. Firstly, perfectionism as a personality type. We've already talked about in this video how we define perfectionism as perfectionism programming. It's just the thought patterns that your brain is most efficient at. Now, there might be an element of some inherited genetic fixed propensity towards perfectionism. What I want to ask you in this nature versus nurture debate is, why would you choose to believe that it's purely nature and fixed when that keeps you stuck? If you choose to believe it's nature, that it's just your fixed personality, then you're stuck, you are powerless, and you're disregarding the capacity proven in so many other parts of human life, of humans' ability to grow. I am telling you, I have grown through this, and I'll tell you about my story, which is pretty dark, in a later series video, but I've also seen this time and time and time again with my clients. We grow. The human brain is a learning machine. The second myth is that your perfectionism is necessary or useful for you to achieve your ambitious goals, to succeed and excel in life. And I really get this because I used to think this too. In fact, I can vividly remember a time in the car in Tasmania where I said, my ability to see all the possible things that could go wrong is an advantage. It means that I'm more prepared and therefore I'm more failure resistant. False. That is a massive oversimplification of what's possible and what's useful. Here, I was only considering the benefits of my perfectionism without any balance or consideration to the ways that my perfectionism was hurting me, holding me back, slowing me down, stumping me from being able to take on and experience opportunities. You've only got so much attention in your day, and my perfectionism programming was stopping me spending that attention on what could go right, on better solutions. Not only that, but thinking about the negative things that could possibly go wrong had me feeling small, pressured, scared, stressed, overwhelmed, confused, unsafe, scarce, frustrated. And my actions from those feelings weren't the most useful. What would have been useful in that scenario would have been feeling things like determined, committed, responsible, self-sufficient, resilient, focused. Those feelings would have driven me to more productive action, which would have driven better results. That's just in the moment of problem solving and solution finding. Never mind how chronically feeling those exhausting negative feelings affected my energy levels and my health over time. It's exhausting. You may still want to agree with those myths. And if you're open to thinking differently, but you're still finding yourself believing it, I would love to open a discussion about it, to find those points where you're feeling like it's true and see if there's anything else that you believe that's different. You are always in charge of your own decisions, but for me, especially as a doctor, a big part of my job is to actually educate patients so they can truly make a decision. Our patients can't make decisions to consent to a treatment or a procedure unless they're informed legally. If a patient says yes without being properly informed, that yes is disregarded medico-legally. An informed choice, a true decision, requires you to be able to consider, to weigh up the relevant information. And like I said at the start of this video, I didn't have all the information when I decided and kept deciding, kept choosing to think this way. I thought it was the only way, at least the only way to achieve what I wanted to in life. And I was uninformed. So let me know if you have any questions or you just want to start chatting, working out, organizing this stuff in your mind. Give this video a like if you're excited about this perfectionism programming series. I know it's going to be life-changing. See you guys in the next one.